Welcome back to our sweet sunny days. As we transition from cold weather to warm weather, I feel like my little family is just starting to come alive. We have so many more events and we're spending so much more time outside. I'm getting my hands muddy and dirty going out and doing stuff in the garden. And we're tackling a lot of projects. So that is really exciting. This is one of my most favorite seasons because things just start to perk up and I know that summer is going to be coming really, really soon. The first thing that I have going in my kitchen this week is pickled red onion. So we were at a friend's house probably a couple weeks ago, and she was like, I have been digging avocado toast like crazy lately. And that is just one of those foods that I honestly never thought to make at home. And I had been wanting to experiment with more fun and easy breakfasts and lunches. And that just felt like the perfect way to do it. And so I thought, in order to dress my avocado toast up, I would make some pickled red onion. So I have actually never done this before. It's super, super simple. Just slice up a red onion. I used a mandolin just because that made it a lot easier. And then all you have to do is combine vinegar, water, sugar, and salt in a pot and make sure it gets all dissolved. And then pour it over the onions, let it cool, put them in the fridge. And then about an hour later, they will be bright pink and very yummy. For the actual avocado toast, I didn't get too crazy. I just did mashed up avocado, everything, bagel, seasoning, a fried egg, the pickled onions, all on top of some sourdough that I bought from a local baker, and it is just seriously the best. And that was a really, really good, easy breakfast and lunch throughout the week for me. I believe that everybody has some level of creativity in their soul, and as I cook more, I can see that kind of coming out in my cooking rather than just sewing or photography in other ways that it's more obvious. I'm definitely seeing creativity in my cooking as well. Later in the week, my nieces came over for a girls' night, and girls' night is basically, around here, is synonymous for pick out a pattern, buy some fabric, and sew matching outfits. So that is what we did. We are working on the Seamwork Madu pattern, and what we did here, as you can see our two highlight lines, is we highlighted my size, cut it out, cut the fabric out, and then highlighted their size so that we could use the same printed pattern for two different sizes. The fabric that you are seeing here is the fabric that we use. It is just a bubble gauze from Joann's, and it sewed wonderfully. Me and my niece both were like, this is awesome. We want to make more out of this fabric. So if you're looking for a fabric recommendation, I did really like the bubble gauze from Joann's. I know that a lot of you guys follow me and say that you are trying to get into sewing or get back into sewing. And I would say that this pattern is a really awesome one for beginners. I felt like it was a really easy one to whip up pretty quickly. I mean, we made 3 in one night. And so that is obviously a very easy pattern to sew. And I think it's good for beginners because the fit is completely done with elastic. You'll see the finished product later in this video, but it's completely done with elastic. So it makes the fit really, really easy because all you have to do is tighten the elastic if you don't like the fit. This is, like I mentioned, a Seamwork pattern. I am a Seamwork member, and so I think you can buy them individually if you are not a member, if you are interested in sewing this pattern. If you are a regular subscriber to this channel, you know that I am not shy about the fact that I consider myself a beginner sewist. I am kind of just now learning how to sew garments. I think there's something about having a daughter that makes you want to learn how to sew. And so I have found that having community would be the best way to put it around sewing is so helpful because there are so many little tips or terms that you need to decipher that you just don't know. And so I find that having a niece that sews, a mom that sews, a sister that sews is so valuable to me. And if you don't have that, I also find that following a lot of pattern makers and young sewists on Instagram is super valuable. And then on top of that, the Seamwork community is really, really valuable to me, just to be able to have a place to ask questions while I am in this learning phase whenever things seem a lot harder to decipher. The more that I sew and garden and cook, the more I realize that I am just the type of person who derives a lot of joy out of making something and creating something with my own two hands. So this project was so fun to make. It's so fun to wear. And of course, it is fun to match my nieces when we all go out for girls' nights. When I originally rearranged my sewing room, I knew that I wanted to hang a gallery wall above my sewing machines, but for whatever reason, I put it off for over a month. So this week, it was finally time to tackle the project of making the gallery wall in my sewing room. The first thing I am doing is cutting out the outline of the frames that I have collected from thrift stores. I've been working on this frame collection for quite a while now, and I even went and pulled some frames from other places in my house just to make sure that I had what I wanted. If I don't end up using them, I just put them back. But I am outlining them with butcher paper because a gallery wall is the type of project that is not friendly with my brain. My brain, even though I do consider myself a creative person, my brain works in columns and rows. So if I'm hanging a gallery wall, it likes 2 rows of 4 frames all in line, level, and perfectly together. It does not like a rogue gallery wall for putting it together. I love the way that it looks visually, but my brain has a hard time actually executing that whenever it's just put frames on the wall. So I was talking to my friend about this, and she was like, oh, what you should do is outline all the frames so that way you can get them up on the wall, see how it's going to look, and then move them all around. And I knew that even though this was a pretty tedious extra step, that it would be worth it in the end because I don't think I could have done a good job with just hanging frames up. My first goal with the butcher paper was to just get every frame on the wall, and then I would go in and take a step back and actually work out the kinks of the way that it looked visually. But I just wanted to get everything on the wall first because I knew that if I got a baseline, I could work out the oddities from there. Once I got the layout all nailed down and I thought it looked really good, it was time to take a look at the butcher paper on the wall and gather the frames that I had decided to use. Like I said, I had a big pile of frames, and so I didn't use them all. So I had to pull out all the frames that were actually in there that I was gonna use, and then make sure that I had the prints I wanted And I'm probably going to flip out some of the prints in some of these frames in the future, but I just wanted to make sure that everything at least had a print in it. And if not, I wanted to get on and order the prints for them. And so I was just kind of working out all of those details before I actually got to hanging them. The biggest saving grace about this project is that even though my brain likes columns and rows better for gallery walls, a gallery wall like this is so much easier to hang. I could not get over how simple it was because the whole thing is rogue. And so if you're off by a nanometer on the height, it doesn't even matter because it's not lined up with anything. And so I just popped this thing up in an afternoon once I got the layout determined, because it was really, really easy to not have to worry about every little thing being super, super level and precise the way you would with a columns and rows gallery wall. For the actual technical way that I am hanging stuff, the only reason I am using a stud finder is that I wanted to make sure there wasn't a stud, because I love to use monkey hooks to hang frames. And so if there's a stud, you can't use it. And I only had 2 that went into studs. None of my frames were so heavy that they had to go into studs. So I just used monkey hooks unless I had to. I have wood paneling walls, so every monkey hook, even though it wouldn't require it on drywall, does require a pilot hole. And yeah, this came together really, really quickly. If you are wanting to make a gallery wall, I definitely recommend monkey hooks unless you have to use a stud. As I got further and further into getting the gallery wall completed and fully hung up, I was getting happier and happier, because there is just so much to be said for having a space feel really complete and really cozy, and just kind of having all the details that you want it to have. And this is a project, like I said, that I had been wanting to do for a long time. So it just finally being done and my sewing space feeling more completed, at least with this one project, felt really, really good as I got closer and closer to that project being done. There was one last project I was wanting to do in my sewing room, and my husband was like, we can just do it right now if you want. And that was really exciting, because this is basically the last thing that needed to be hung on the walls in order to have everything done in my sewing room. And that is my wall mounted thread holders. Now, these are not actually thread holders. They are picture frame wall ledge things that perfectly fit the size of my embroidery thread spools that I use. So I had bought a pack of 3 of them a while back in order to make a perfect little rainbow thread color shelf in my sewing room. And then whenever I painted, I took them down and never got them back up. So I sorted all the thread colors into the rainbow and put them back up on their little holders. And this is it just makes me so happy. You guys know that I love color. The walls in this sewing room were looking real bare, and they needed something. And so now they look so much more complete, and this space brings me a lot of joy and inspires me to create. Thank you so much for joining me here on our sweet sunny days. I hope this video ignited a creative spark and inspired you. I'll see you guys next week.